There is a physical jolt catching someone in a lie. The floor drops out, the room spins, and reality fractures into before and after. We are taught to view this moment through a very specific lens. On one side, there is an active predator, deliberately spinning a web. On the other, a passive victim, blindly stumbling into it. It is a comfortable framework. It places the moral weight entirely on the liar, ensuring the person receiving the lie bears zero responsibility for the exchange. But if you examine the actual mechanics of communication, this standard predator and prey model breaks down. In many cases, it operates in reverse. By clinging to the myth that we are innocent bystanders, we ignore our own active participation in the dialogue. That blind spot makes us far more susceptible to being deceived in the future. Ask me no questions, and I can tell you no lies. We often treat this phrase like a schoolyard taunt, but grammatically, it functions as a rigid if-then conditional logic statement. This logic transforms the act of deception. It functions as a symbiotic duet, requiring two willing participants to bring the lie into existence. The uncomfortable reality is that our own instinct to demand information, our very act of asking, is the exact vulnerability that invites the lie to surface. Mechanically speaking, a question is a targeted demand for data. It applies interrogatory pressure. This diagram shows the respondent as a single white dot. When a question is asked, the contracting arrows represent incoming pressure, physically forcing the respondent into a corner where they must produce an output. That pressure creates an immediate psychological vacuum. Socially and biologically, the respondent is now obligated to fill this sudden void. When the truth is dangerous or embarrassing, the respondent often deploys a lie as a defense mechanism to safely fill this void. Without the initial interrogative pressure, the respondent remains in a neutral state. In this undisturbed space, they have zero incentive to fabricate a defense. A lie is rarely a spontaneous creation. It is a calculated, defensive reaction triggered directly by the act of interrogation. We can also view this relationship through the lens of economics. Every conversation is a transactional feedback loop between two speakers. The person asking the question acts as the buyer. They are demanding a highly specific, high-value product from the market, the truth. The respondent is the seller. Once a question is asked, they are locked into a contract and must supply an answer to satisfy the buyer and close the interaction. When the actual truth is unavailable, the seller provides a counterfeit product to appease the buyer's demand. You cannot have a thriving market for counterfeit information without a buyer actively demanding the product. This brings us to the core concept of the silence of truth. What happens when the demand for information drops to absolute zero? Usually, we frame silence as a state of ignorance or submission, but under this model, silence is a tactical choice. This diagram illustrates true equilibrium. Two identical circles represent a neutral connection. Because the buyer makes no demands, the seller provides no supply. This equilibrium reduces the opportunity for a lie. Deceptive variables dissolve without a directional flow. A powerful defense against deception does not come from developing better interrogation skills. It comes from the total absence of inquiry. Applying this is difficult. We have an innate, often desperate need to uncover answers and fill the silence. But there is a risk inherent in every question we ask moving forward. Every inquiry provides a specific prompt that makes a lie possible. It leaves us with a difficult paradox. To ensure you are never the target of a manufactured lie, you must master the art of walking away without an answer.